I wanted to take this opportunity today to announce a new video series I'm going to do on this channel that I'm really excited about. To start this video, I want to kind of put out a statement about it here, which the first thing I'm going to say is I've said this at the beginning of every video, so I'm going to stop saying it after the beginning of this video. I don't have a game capture card yet. I plan on getting one in the next couple months. So starting this video process is going to be kind of interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use PC footage of these games that I capture myself, even though this is going to be about Xbox 360, but that's what I'm going to do for now. And honestly, going forward, once I get a capture card, if it's a game that I can use footage from on the PC, I'm going to do that because the footage is always going to look better than the footage from a 360. This new video project I'm going to be calling The Greatest Generation. I don't want to come out and say that the Xbox 360 was the greatest generation of console games, because there's always going to be Nintendo, there's always going to be Super Nintendo. Somebody's always going to think that PlayStation 1, there might be someone out there who thinks the original Xbox. Like, everybody's always going to have an opinion on what they think the greatest generation of video games is. But the reason I'm calling this video series about Xbox 360 games in particular the greatest generation is because, for me, the Xbox 360 was kind of a rebirth of my love of console games. As a kid, I grew up playing Super Nintendo. Was my first real big system. I had an original Nintendo, but I only played it for like a year, and then I got the Super Nintendo. And even during that time, it was kind of a cool time where you could still play games on the original Nintendo because they made games for that system forever. But you could also play games on the Super Nintendo as well. And so I kind of rocked that for a while, and then the Nintendo 64 was the first system I bought with my own money. And then I bought a PS1, and I jumped into that. And my history as a child with video games was always console games, and up through PS2. And then I had a PC renaissance, which I feel like every person that's a gamer has a PC renaissance, where they just kind of go into a dark corner and they play PC games only for like a year or two, and then they slowly kind of come back to console games. For me, that was like 2002 to 2004. I played a shit ton of Unreal Tournament. 2003 and 2004, I played a shit ton of Warcraft 3 and the expansion, StarCraft, and just games that came out at that time. And that kind of led through like Half-Life 2 and a bunch of games there. But then what happened was the Xbox 360 came out, and that summer I had some friends come and visit from Michigan, where I used to live. At the time that I was playing all these PC games, I lived in Michigan, by the way. Then I moved away back to Illinois, where I reside now, and I had friends come and visit me, and I'd really kind of gotten back into console games with like the original Xbox. In that summer we played a shit ton of Time Splitters Future Perfect, and then the Xbox 360 got announced, and I got kind of excited about it, and ended up just kind of jumping in launch day with that machine, and I completely just transitioned right back into console games. For me, that's the main reason I'm calling this the greatest generation. Is for the last like 4 or 5 years now, I've been collecting specifically Xbox 360 games, because, as I'll state always, right now is the best possible time to collect Xbox 360 games or PlayStation 3 games, because they're just dirt cheap, because everybody is unloading these things to get games for the new platforms and stuff. You can easily go to garage sales, you can go to GameStop, local mom and pop video game stores, resale stores, pawn shops, whatever. You can find these games dirt cheap, really, really cheap. And a lot of them, the reason I've been collecting in the last couple of years is because I know the prices on these games are going to start going up as we kind of get through like another like 5 or 10 years, 360 being a mainstay system, and get through this generation into the next generation. Then I feel like these games are going to start jumping up in price. Plus, with the added bonus of Xbox 360 backwards compatibility on Xbox One, a lot of these games started jumping price as well. So I'm glad I jumped in at the time that I did to pick up these games. I still hope that one day they just kind of flick a switch and everything's backwards compatible, but right now it's kind of up to developers and stuff, because they do have to go through, different emulation and stuff. Me, the Xbox 360 was a great, fantastic generation, not only in the games and the quality of games that came out, it was kind of the last true era of getting not only the AAA games that you would expect, but also getting those like B grade games and stuff. Like I think of things like Bullet Witch or some of those like X-Blades and like some of those real like B level video games that you just don't get today, because everything today, we live in a gaming culture now where it either has to be AAA or it has to be indie. There's no in between anymore. So I feel like that generation was the last generation to have that. What I want to do with this channel is my Xbox 360 collection as of right now stands at about 145 games. At this point, I'm gonna kind of start just picking games off the shelf, playing them, kind of going through the history of them. In general, one game that I really wanted to do, and I do promise I will do it. It'll be the first game for this video series that I do when I get a capture card, is the original Prey. As we are kind of coming up on the new Prey coming out, which I can't wait for. I think it's incredible that we're finally getting a new Prey. I was someone that's always fascinated by the original Prey and was super pumped for Prey 2. I always laugh at work. I always bring it up. I have an actual keychain on my car keys of Prey 2, a Prey 2 keychain that they sent out as a promotional thing years ago, Bethesda thing. In like a box for different retailers and stuff to promote their upcoming games that were coming out. So it was Skyrim, Prey, and I forget what the third one was, but I've kind of always wore on my car keys that keychain of Prey 2 as a reminder of how much I enjoyed the original Prey, how awesome Prey 2 looked, and then just kind of didn't happen. So you can imagine my shock in I think it was last year, actually, last E3, when they announced Prey was coming back. It's made by Arcane. It's a totally new thing. It's not the Prey that you remember, but it seems like they're maintaining the core ideas of what made Prey such a cool and unique game at its time. You know, a lot of people don't realize the original Prey was doing stuff that was in other games that is Prey, that, you know, other games are praised for. Prime example, many people don't know, the original Prey has Portal shit in it, like the game Portal that everybody, you know, thinks is the greatest game that's ever been made. They did that first, and people didn't play Prey, so they don't know that. But all that weird, crazy, the idea of jumping through portals and stuff, that's in Prey. Prey was like the first place that I ever saw stuff like that. So obviously, when I do get a capture card, Prey will be the first game that I do. I haven't fully decided what the first game I'm going to do with this video series is. I have a couple ideas I'm rolling around in my head right now, but I do plan on jumping in. And so I have a collection of 145 games right now, and I haven't stopped collecting either. Like, I'm still actively collecting and finding things. For me, I'm not going for a complete 360 collection. That would be utter madness. I collect things that either I have a strong, fond memory of. There's something funny about it. Maybe there's a humorous. Maybe it's just a really shitty game that I want to own a copy of it. So, and that might be the thing. These aren't all going to be great games. These aren't going to be all, 10 out of 10 games or anything like that. These are just going to be games that are fun to go through. Some of them are going to be hidden gems. Sometimes I'm going to play a game that is just utter garbage, but it's fun to have it. One game that I'm actually actively looking for right now that I hope to get at some point that I want to do a video on is Rogue Warrior, which is a garbage game. I think it was published by Bethesda. It is bad, like really bad, but in a good way. And at some point I hope to play that as part of this video series as well. So it's not always... The greatest generation isn't about celebrating 10 out of 10 perfect games. The greatest generation is about celebrating the Xbox 360 and celebrating what it brought as kind of the last great generation of video games before we got into this new generation of digital downloads and in general digital distribution, and either you have to be a AAA game or an indie game. There is no in between. So the 360 kind of was the last generation for all that kind of stuff. And although digital distribution did start in that generation, it wasn't a huge thing. So believe me, I'm not somebody that's against digital distribution either. I think it's fine, and if it's an option that it's there if you want it. I prefer owning physical copies of games because that's how I've grown up, and that's how I'm always going to be. But some people just want to get their Call of Duty on, and they want to go out, they want to buy, you know, Call of Duty, and they want to be there at 11:01 to play the game. Like, I get it, I understand. I'm not that person, but that does serve an audience at some point. So, but I'm not against buying games that are digital or anything like that. If the price is right. I do not want to buy. I'm not the kind of person that wants to buy a $60 retail game digitally. Like, that just seems disgusting to me. I've always thought that digital games should be just a little bit cheaper because you're not getting a physical item in your hand. Anyways, putting that aside, so with the Greatest Generation, and I hope to start filming the first episode of it soon here and putting it up and getting feedback on it, see what you guys like and dislike about it. I hope to showcase the good, the bad, and just the last true, I would call the last true great generation of video games, because I joke with my friends all the time about this generation of games, but we kind of have come up with the term trash generation for the 8th generation of consoles. And it's totally not a trash generation, but the first like 2 years of the Xbox One PS4 were not great years. You had a lot of remasters, you had a lot of broken promises, and you had a lot of, hey, here's a sequel to a game you really loved on the Xbox 360, it's not as good. You know, most recent example I can give of that, besides Mass Effect Andromeda, would be Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And a lot of people really like Mankind Divided, and that's fine. For me, Human Revolution was 10 times better. And that game, just Mankind Divided, just really disappointed me and rubbed me in the wrong way. And I just came off that game going, yeah. And then they announced recently, like, that series is on hold. And I kind of looked at it and was like, that's fine. So it's been that kind of this generation of just broken promises and stuff. But now we finally, like, in the last 6 months, we finally hit the point where these games are coming out and they're great. And we're finally at the point where the Xbox One and the PS4 feel like they've kind of cemented themselves in this generation, and good games are coming out. It just took a year longer than it did with the 360 and the PS3. For me, as I've stated on this channel before, and I'll state again, I was an Xbox 360 guy, I wasn't a PS3 guy. I owned a PS3 and played the exclusives and stuff. It was fine, but I think the PS4 is a vastly superior system, and I think the PS2 is a vastly superior system, and I think the PS3 was a step backwards for that company. And now a lot of people I know, you know, PS3 maybe was their first system or something, and that's cool too. For me, I was a 360 guy. All my friends were 360 guys, and we all had fun with the Xbox 360. So I look forward to going on this journey with you, talking about these games, having a good time, maybe having some fond memories of different 360 games and stuff. I will be announcing soon what the first game in this project is going to be, and I will start working on it soon. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be fun to play some of these games again, and as soon as I get a capture card, I'm really going to dive deep into some of the catalog here that I have accumulated in the last couple years, because I have quite a bit. Maybe even at some point I will do a collection video. It's not going to be that exciting because I don't have a massive video game collection like a lot of people on YouTube do, but I have amassed a collection of stuff. So, but anyways, thank you for watching this. Keep tuned for the first episode of The Greatest Generation. I hope to have that up soon. I hope to start working on it soon. So I'm hoping, you know, sometime. I'm not gonna give out a date or a promise, you know, of a date right now, but just keep tuned to the channel, and I hope to put that up, give you that information as soon as possible. Anyways, thanks for watching this. Thanks for tuning in.